Welcome to Fathernetics, Fatherhood Unfiltered. I'm Jamil. Welcome to the podcast.
Do it. You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby. You are gonna see that you'll never ever find.
All right, guys,
somebody
welcome
do it
back
like
to
me.
another episode of Fathernetics, continuing down the trend of having guests join the podcast and providing background and insights into how they've become fathers today, and perhaps even some of the influences that are impacting how they are fathers today. We welcome Trevor to our conversation. Welcome, Trevor. You want to say hi for everybody?
Hi, everybody.
There you go. Thanks for joining us on this one. What I want to do before we get into anything that's serious is just kind of talk about how we know each other. Did you want to tell the story, or should I tell the story? I guess different perspectives may get different stories.
Yeah, good point. I guess I'll tell what I remember, and then feel free to chime in and tell me I'm
correct
right
it
or
all.
wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah, either one. So it was probably, at this point, it's been 6 years, maybe.
I was just talking to Michael about this. It's
Jeez.
been, oh wow, it's been at least 6 at a minimum.
At a minimum, yeah, because it was,
Yeah,
6
I
or
was
7
trying to
years.
equate it by how long you guys have known Jacob. I mean, you guys have known Jacob since he was at least 5, and he's 11 now.
Yeah,
so
so
that's 6 years.
Yeah, it has. So, kind of connected through Instagram and noticed that you were kind of going on the journey with Jacob, had a kid. We were starting to kind of talk about that process, me and Michael. And man, that's a very short version of it, but that's pretty much how it kicked off.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, and it's probably a repeat for those that are following along on the podcast, that we all met by way of Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson introduced us all, right? Nick and I went to a concert, Janet Jackson, and you and Michael were in the front row acting a fool. And
He was acting a fool. He was acting a
he
fool.
always acts the fool when it comes to Janet Jackson. And I think from there, Nick had noticed that you guys either followed each other or something of that nature. And I reached out, and then obviously we connected on the topic of kids. And we had just gone through our foster certification process and had gotten Jacob as a result of that. We thought it was taking way too long, right? It was like a couple of months after we got certified, and we were like, well, when are we going to get a kid? And then I had one for, I think it was a weekend, and Nick was in Vegas, and then that was it. And then it was like 3 months later that we got Jacob. So the process for us, at least up until that point, was rather smooth. But I had a hint. I kind of felt that we weren't getting a lot of attention because we were a gay couple. That may have been in the back of my head. I don't know if that's true or not, but I kind of felt like that timeline between certification and getting a kid would have been like years in the back of my head. Be that as it may, we met as a result of that, and maybe you can tell us what your thought process in actually coming to the point where you were ready to do the foster certification was.
Yeah. So Michael, my husband, comes from a very large family. He's got 5 brothers and sisters. I'm still meeting people 12 years later.
Jeez.
My family's the complete opposite. I'm an only child, very small family, couple cousins, and that's about as far as we go.
So this is good perspective, because people that come from being an only child often have perspectives that I find fascinating. Nick's an only child as well, so half the things he tells me, I'm like, why? So I think it's a good perspective to have. So I'll let you continue, but I think that's always fascinating. So I may learn something here.
So I never thought I would have kids. Never really crossed my mind. It was never something I wanted. A few years into our relationship, and, once we got married, it was something, just seeing, honestly, couples like you guys and other people that had kids, and thought, this could be a journey that we want to take. I knew Michael wanted to. So I will say, without him and his influence, we would not have children.
Do you still feel you've made the right decision? That's a loaded question.
Ooh, depends on the day.
I know for every parent, it's like, oh, what did we do? Like, did we make the right choice? I know I've had those conversations with myself, earlier on in the process when it was really a struggle. We're like, oh man, what did we do? What did we do?
Yeah, and especially fostering and going that route, every journey is different. Ours was pretty wild, I think. We have 2 kids as a result of it, 2 very different children. They always say, you have your first child and it makes you want a second. And then once you have your second, the second one's always the crazy one. And the one that, tests your patience as much as it possibly can. And that is, even with them not being biological children, that is still absolutely the case for us.
And you got them in pretty quick succession, but it's still, 1-2 punch.
Yeah, so we were different in the fact that the day we got our license, the next day we got a call for placement for Genesis.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that quick.
It's the next day. And Genesis was being removed from the foster home he was in. And so they needed a quick placement. All of our placements have been emergency placements. And I guess theoretically, it's pretty much that's the way every placement's an emergency in this situation anyway. But he was being removed from another home. And our agency that we were dealing with actually suggested that we not take Genesis because of the reason he was being removed, problems with the biological mother and just kind of her mental state and the challenges that she...
But weren't they the ones that called you to be with? Or did the state reach out?
The state did.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, the state did. And so with the challenges with the mother and how difficult... He was being removed from that home because of how difficult the mother was making things for the foster parent. And our agency said, look, for your first...
So a little bit of foreshadowing here.
Yeah, for your first placement, they said you probably don't want to go down this road. We typically don't shy away from a challenge. And so we said we're going to...
But at that point, you didn't really know...
We had no clue.
No, yeah, there's nothing to reference point.
No clue. So yeah, for us, it was like, all right, let's do it. And we did. And that was 5 years ago at this point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Genesis is 7. So 5.5 years, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty close to the timeline a little bit after we got Jacob. Yeah, and we all met.
Yeah, and the journey with him was a very long one to get to the adoption process. Jackson, our other kiddo, he same thing. He was living with his grandmother, and the DCS removed him from her care, and so he came to us as an emergency placement in the middle of the night, pretty much. Then after a week or 2 weeks, he went to live with his grandma. She became placement. And a couple weeks later, they removed him from her house. And then he came back to us. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey. His was a lot faster, the fostering process, because his mother had some big challenges that she wasn't able to overcome. And ironically, we were able to, this is jumping way ahead, but able to adopt them on the exact same day, which is
fantastic.
Very unusual, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah. It all came together at the same time. I think one of the things that we tried, and I know you guys did with different results, is trying to maintain that contact with bio parents. We went the route of setting up like a Google number because we didn't want like our direct number in case we decided to like back away. But we did like the whole Google number, and we did the whole text message thing, and hey, we're sending you pictures. We recognize that there is an emotional toll on all parties involved, right? They're the foster parents that get really attached to the kid, and then there's that unknown of what's going to happen with the kid. And then obviously the kid has its own emotional journey of having either come from another foster parent or just being ripped from their parents and put in with some strangers. And then still having that connection, their visits, right? Needing to connect with their biological parents and then coming back to the foster parents. And So we wanted to try our best to have some sort of common thread woven between all the parties. So we went down that route. It worked well for a few weeks. And then when it didn't, it was very like, they're reaching out to us going, why? So we were like, we don't need to explain ourselves. You don't live with us. We've decided we're not going to do that. So we just disconnected the number and then we were good, right? And we never had an issue after that. Apart from when we saw Bio Dad in person, like either at a what do you call a CFT or in court, but he was always very pleasant after that because he didn't really have much to say outside of that. But your experience, not quite the same.
No, man. Our so we fostered quite a few kids actually, but the two that we ended up adopting we had the most challenge with their parents. Yeah, in the beginning, we did the exact same thing. We said, hey, this was our first placement with Genesis. And we said, kind of read books or, listened to what DCS and fostering classes said. And when we took placement, we wrote a note because that's what they tell you to do. Write a note, say, hey, he's with us now. Here's how he's doing, just something to help comfort the parent.
We're fun people. We're sane.
Exactly. And so we gave it to the case aide that was doing the visit that week, and she, his bio mom got the note, ripped it up, and said "F their note," without not knowing anything about us. So we knew from then that was going to be a pretty wild ride. It was, to say the least.
Why at that time? Did you have any kind of inclinations as to why she did that outside of her just not being happy with the situation?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we just figured, a little bit, just knowing a little bit of the background, what they kind of give you, but it's hard for a parent as well. Bio parent, I can't imagine now if our kids just went
right
all of a sudden to live with somebody and we have no idea who they are.
Right.
Can't even imagine what that would be like. So try to understand it to a degree. But also we realize we've got our emotional well-being that we've got to protect as well. And it's unfortunate for her.
She's in her own situation.
Correct.
Yeah.
And yeah, hate to say that, but yeah, it's exactly right. We were there to help out, and we know that he was in good hands with us. And, it's unfortunate she could have, we opened up the door for her and she closed it. So at that point, that's on her. And we did not communicate at all from that point on.
Okay. And what about the other one, Jackson?
Yeah. So we then decided, okay, let's create an email. So we did that. Not a phone number, we did an email, tried that.
So we did the dance, we learned, we went a different route.
Yeah.
Or tried to.
Another kid, another situation. It went okay in the beginning, and then it went south after a couple months very quickly, to the point where she was accusing us of kidnapping, and that we were in it with DCS. And so
these sound like, so I don't know a lot about their situation as to why they've come to be where they are. Did you have a sense that this was, we might be getting off topic here a little bit, but is this more like mental health?
Oh, 100%.
For both of them?
Yeah. For Jackson's bio mom, she major mental health issues and major drug use. Mm-hmm. And, so yeah, you could tell as things progressed, and it was very obvious her drug use was progressing and her mental state was quickly declining, to the point, kind of tried to stalk the parents on Facebook a little bit over the years, kind of just see what they're up to, what they're posting, and saw a video. Jackson's mom is now homeless, been in and out of prison or in and out of jail. Every few months she's arrested, and did a video on the streets of Phoenix saying that kids were locked in this underground tunnel, that they were being trafficked, and said her kid was in there as well and she was trying to get him out.
Okay.
So
okay. Well, okay. So here's why I was asking that question, because I think that for me, for myself and Nicholas, one of the things that we wanted to do was be very intentional about how we engage with anybody prior to the adoption, right? I think our road to adoption was like almost 2 years. During that time, you engage with so many people, and they come and go, and it seems like people in the state, whether they are advisors or some sort of support technician or whatnot, they're here today, they're gone tomorrow, and you've got somebody else. It's like you've got 30 different people you've learned names, and it's so for all of them, we're always trying to represent the opportunity to change minds and say that the stigma attached to gay people adopting kids is not true. There's a misconception out there about, you can't adopt a male, or you can't adopt a female because of tendencies. And it's like, that's entirely not true. Obviously, there's an opportunity within the state for a lot more gay couples to adopt the 30 some odd thousand kids that are in the system across the U.S., right? So there's certainly opportunity for that path, and we're starting to see a lot more gay couples get into that adoption journey. Do you believe that the stigma has changed or has potentially influenced anything that you've experienced through the adoption process?
Yeah, so I feel like, we had a pretty good experience. As crazy as it was, being a gay couple, I don't think it was as big of a challenge as we thought it would be. At least not with the state. We were very intentional with things. We always went to court dates when we could go in person, because a lot of our adoption and fostering journey happened through COVID. But when we showed up to every court date, whether it be virtual or in person. So we were very intentional that we wanted to be there.
The things you learn when you're there is leaps and bounds.
But just knowing that if these cases do go from adoption or from fostering to adoption, we feel like if we're there present, showing an interest, the judge is able to interact with us and see us, that is going to, if there is a stigma, will potentially help with that. Mm-hmm. So we were very intentional with that. I think the larger issue was with the parents. I mean, the amount of times that we got accused of sexual abuse and things like that. I mean, it happened numerous times with both of the parents.
But you don't think that was just them going through their personal challenges and being who they are? Nothing unusual, untoward you guys for being gay?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, would it have happened with a straight couple, or if it was just a female? Not sure. But it does definitely feel a little more pointed when, us being a same-sex couple, having those allegations. And ironically, our agency that we use to go get our fostering, to foster, they would not allow us to foster a female in the beginning.
So that was very tied to some sort of misconception somewhere. Did they expand on that?
Well, yeah, because it really upset Michael, and he challenged it. And basically they said, well, they don't allow males without a female in the house to take in, girls. But at the same time, with the same-sex couple, it feels like what they're trying to avoid there is a different situation.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's a female or a male. If there is something nefarious that is scheduled to happen because people are goofy like that, then kids are kids, right? So it's unfortunate because that happens. It's one of the things that they explained to us when we went through our certification process. I think they did a good job of trying to do the shock and awe. Be prepared because this is something. And your story of the foster, of the bio parents, reporting on you guys was one of the stories that they told us. Like, be careful. They could just make sure you're on your P's and Q's. You're doing things. Your doors are open during bath time. And so, we took that and we were like, man, we need to really make sure we are on top of it, and never experienced it. And then you guys, like, week after week, it was like something else is happening. It was like,
every
why
week.
Is that like?
It was constant. it was interesting because Jackson, and you guys know him, he will fall walking. I mean, he will trip over air. So he's always got bruises on him, and scratches and things of that nature. I mean, he's a 6-year-old. So just in general, just being a 6-year-old and,
Right.
He's a very
And walls that
rambunctious
don't move.
Yeah, exactly. He's a very energetic and rambunctious one. He's also a kid that falls getting out of the car, that will literally trip over his own feet, to the point where we had hearing tests done thinking that, there could be issues with his hearing causing us imbalance.
I wouldn't have thought about that.
So just to add that onto it, every time there was a mark somewhere, we had to document, and we were questioned about it and, what's going on. So yeah, it was a journey for sure.
So as an only child, where do you think your biggest influences on who the dad that you are today, or the dad that you are creating today? And I say creating because I think it's an active activity. Every day it's a new subtraction addition to the dad that we are in our lives. Are you pulling that from the fatherly side your mom gave you, the fatherly side your dad gave you? And I say that because to me, fatherhood is not a male specific item, right? Fatherhood is anyone who is providing that attitude, that perspective, that drive, that love, right? Because we have single parents that are mom and dad and uncle and teacher and all that other stuff. So it's really just a behavior, if you will. So what do you think you are pulling a lot of that from? We like to add and remove what we don't like from our childhood as well. So
yeah, it's a very interesting question, and something I'm still, I think, always evolving in and trying to figure out. Because I think I have less patience, and I think my parents were better parents than me. I'll just kind of rip that Band-Aid off and say that.
okay,
I think I'm a great parent.
you may have to ask your kids later in life so they can.
I think I do a good job. It's funny between the two, between me and Michael, if something breaks, the kids come to me. If they want to have fun and go let loose, they go to Michael. So we also have, our parenting roles have evolved, kind of based on our personalities.
And I don't think that's so unusual. I don't know. Again, I think one of the things that we're building as a part of this podcast is to be able to have conversations just like this, so that we can hear it from someone else and go, okay, I'm not weird. So I think that type of difference in your personalities, like the kids know who to go to. I have that with Nick as well. So I mean, in my opinion, Nick's the fun one. I tend to be more rigid in some of my approaches. Yep. I'm trying to change. So
that's what I'm getting at, man. And Michael, he'll call me out and say, because again, I'm the one that is more rigid and maybe is a little more impatient and maybe expects them to be less kids. Yeah, less of kids than they.
Why don't you know this?
Than they are. And Michael will say all the time, well, how did your parents react to this? Because I'm very fortunate. I had fantastic parents. I had a great childhood. So I'm lucky to be able to say that. And so I think a lot of times back to both of them, kind of what did they do? How did they act? And just want to be half as good as they were.
Yeah, I think that's the secret sauce as well, because I had a fantastic childhood. Nick always says it's like the Disneyland of childhoods, because I grew up in a very small town in Panama. And both parents, and they were very loving, and never had like the screaming and the shouting and the fighting and none of that stuff. It was always like, we're traveling to the United States every summer and visiting with family. And, my parents come from, a very kind of a high pedigree in Panama. So they knew everybody. Everybody knew us. There were no strangers. Like, it was just community, really. So I think that maybe leans into why I am kind of more structured. Like, I want to give them what I had. And I think in my mind, I have a path to that. But having kids is never one path. And that's something I'm learning every day. Even though I want to get there this way, that's not how I'm going to get there. You may not get there at all. because these kids are not going to let you do that.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. And I'm the exact same way. I mean, same thing. We want them to have a certain life. We want them to enjoy things. But then we also, and especially we want them to act a certain way as well.
Yeah.
And it's also challenging because we have, again, two very different kids. I mean, they are as opposite as they could possibly be. And one of them is very...
Even different races.
Yeah, different races as well.
I say that not in jest, but to kind of provide context. Nick and I are different races. He's white, I'm black. And Jacob is a mix of two with red hair. So he stands out. And then you and your husband, obviously you're white, he's black. And then you have two kids that are white and black at the same time. So it's like the diversity is abundant among this small friend circle, which I don't think I see a lot in like Jacob's friends. They're amazing. Jacob's friends and his family. They're fantastic individuals. But because of where we live, there isn't a lot of opportunities to have like black friends, black families.
Yeah, it's something we talk about often. And, it's funny because Jackson's the white one, and I'm probably harder on him and struggle a little more with him. Michael and my parents also say that he is very much like I was as a kid. And my mom jokes that this is payback for, how I was. And then we have Genesis who's black, and he's the very calm one. And so there's things about him that I, appreciate and kind of drift to and connect with. And Michael also sees him as, he wants him to be the best version of himself, and is harder on him than he has done Jackson, and vice versa. So it's an interesting dynamic in our house on how that.
So is that more of a reflection?
For sure.
I one of the things that I really appreciate about this fatherhood journey is that it is provoking me to have a lot of introspective moments that I didn't anticipate that I would have. And it comes from seeing Jacob behave in ways that I have inadvertently taught him by how I'm modeling the behavior. So a lot of times it forces me to step out of myself and say, well, he's talking back to me because I was just talking back to him. But it's like he's mirroring, and then I get upset. No, don't talk back to me. But it's like it's how you've taught me how to behave. And it's like, damn it, you're right.
Yeah, and we go through that all the time. We're like, crap, we just did that. Like we look back and we're like, they're doing exactly what we do to them.
Yep.
But then in my, it's also in my head, I'm like, well, we're the parents. You can't do that. But do as I say, not as I do. But how fair is that?
It's the perspective. We have the history to be able to say, this is where we started, this is where we are. And the kids are like, I started here. Like, this is...
Exactly.
I have no history. This is it. So what would you say, going through the adoption process, coming out of that into where you are now, what do you think were your biggest concerns or scary thoughts that you had becoming a father?
So it felt pretty natural, I will say that, a lot more than I expected. I had never been around kids, really. I mean, I've got one cousin who was close to my age that I grew up with, and that was it. Mm-hmm. I had never changed a diaper in my life, not once.
I still haven't, just so you know. That's on purpose. Nick and I made an agreement where, like, kid needs to be old enough to use the restroom on his own and communicate needs.
Yeah, and so we did the opposite because we wanted young that maybe didn't have much outside influence yet. Mm-hmm. So Genesis was about 1.5 years, and I'd never changed a diaper. I've never dressed a kid. I've never done anything like that. So, but Michael knew how to do all that because he had a bunch of siblings and cousins and everything, but just kind of figured that out. And
so we were like, I'm just concerned I'm going to do this wrong. I'm going to put the safety pin in the wrong spot and this diaper is going to fall off. And And I'm sure it's probably happening,
Safety
right? We
pins.
all, oh damn.
Wow. You haven't changed the diaper. Yes, they have these little tabs on them now that you just kind of Velcro in.
Oh, I just remember my mom used to tell me they used to have there were like these cloth style diapers that needed to be bound with safety pins.
Yeah, we don't do those anymore, really. Or
No,
most people
but that's
don't. Most people don't, at least.
saw your face like, no, what are you talking about? No. Okay, so fair enough. But I'm sure there have been a lot of opportunities where, we've made some missteps, and I know I have. I will hold my hand up and say I've made so many errors as a parent. I think the benefit here is our kids would never know. I mean, from their perspective, they think we've got this figured out. We're just really trying to help them get to a sense of reality that makes sense for when they're in their adult years. But I mean, there's not a day go by that I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't have done that, or I was a little too harsh, or my tone was too much, or
Every day.
And then the other one, I let him get away with that. I shouldn't have done that. Like, that's gonna teach him. Nick's always telling me, by telling him what he did wrong, you're teaching him how to improve and get away with it better. And I'm like, well, I mean, how else is he gonna learn if I don't say?
But I also look back and go, man, I don't know, because again, I had great parents. There was no yelling in my house. But I feel like I had a different respect for my parents than our kids do. And I think that is because we probably do cross that friendship line maybe more than my parents did. Again, had a great time with them, but I had a great time with my parents, but I think we toggle on that. They look at us kind of in a friendship way sometimes, our kids. That's one thing we struggle with.
Are really tall homies?
Yeah, like boundaries, and okay, you can't talk to us like that, even though, yes, we just did it to you, like you said, and you can't do that.
Oh my God, we've drawn the line there so many times. We've been Jacob, we are not your friend. Okay? We're not your little homie from down the street.
Exactly.
Okay? That's not us. We're your parents. Here's where we're at. Nick and I made that agreement. I mean, we talk about a lot of things, as I'm sure you and Michael do all the time, but we try to be very aligned in how we parent. We have different perspectives, different history and stuff that we're bringing to the table, and we have to try to marry those two together to be unified in how we're presenting this to the kid. So there are a lot of times where, my idea wins and it's like, yeah, let's do that. Or, sometimes my idea is like, and Nick's like, no, I don't. That's an opportunity to change that one thing that you want to introduce to our kid. Not to say that it was bad, but here's a better way. We've learned, when you know better, you do better. So we try to elaborate on those opportunities. And this one is when my parents were very, growing up, we're not your friends. They're my friends now because
you're an adult.
Yeah, because I'm an adult, right? So that level of engagement is different. But when there was an opportunity to bring the hammer down, we knew that was from a loving parental perspective and not your friend that you talked to yesterday and you're confused. Like, I thought we were, so it's yeah. And we have other friends that have kids as well. They do a different parenting style as well. And I think that, I'm going to take a segue. There was a show on TV. I can't remember the name of it. And it was basically, the premise was, here are 5 different parenting styles. One is like free range kids. One is the structured parenting style. One is and something else. And I don't remember the rest of it, but they had different scenarios and tests that they would put the kids through to see how they would react based on the parenting styles of the parent. And all of them had their gives and their whatnots. And I think that is the crux of being able to build a community and say, I may not do it like you do, but maybe I can get something from the way that you do it and introduce it to my life that I've never experienced before and would never be able to experience that but for making that connection with someone else. So I think that even though you guys have kids that are younger than my kids, There are some qualities there that we have taken and mirrored into ours. Our other friends do that as well because Jacob is years ahead of them. So a lot of what they're seeing now in their kid, Jacob was doing at the time. And they're like, man, I can't, no, I don't know how you guys do it with Jacob being. I'm like, okay, just wait a couple years. You're going to be right there.
I think that's what terrifies me. I'm more concerned, you say, what are we afraid of? Or I'm more afraid of when they get older, not this age now. I can control this age to I have a lot of control now over what happens, what they do. But, there's always that concern of mentally where, when they get older, are they going to be, just being adopted and going through that. And, is there going to be that want to seek out their biological parents and, where they come from and that connection or,
so how much is too much? How much do you share with them?
A decent amount. I actually feel like sometimes we share too much. And I think try to back it off a little bit. There's things our kids say now that I hate that they say, like, "Oh, we've been with you for 6 years," and I hate it's like I hate that saying because their friends aren't going to say that. "Oh, I've been with my parents." We're your parents. It's in my head. I'm like, you don't need to quantify your existence.
I've been with my parents for 45 years.
Yeah. Like you don't say that,
But I think that's the difference, right? As gay parents, we have a lot of intentionality that we build into how we're raising our kids because unlike a lot, not all, unlike a lot of straight couples who have kids, it's really just kind of, I'm pregnant, like, surprise.
Right.
As opposed to us, there's a lot of planning that went into even a kid walking
Very
into our
intentional.
house, right? So there's a lot of preparedness. There's a lot of emotional growth that we do trying to get to that point, even though we're still learning every day. So I think that when our kids echo stuff like that, it just kind of reminds us that our journey is a lot different. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's the way they're going to see it now. I think that being transparent, at least what works for us, is what we need to do, what we should and continue to do. Earlier on in the process, there was a lot of conversations about bio dad and bio mom because it was always front of mind for him, right? We were the new experience. So it was always like, oh, what's going on there? I haven't seen blah, 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 blah. Or, I miss so-and-so. So it's like, oh, and every time we heard that, we were like, those mother, like, why are you even, like, if you only knew.
If you only knew.
Right.
Exactly.
But, we always have to remember they have no context to that.
Correct.
Whether they were in the abusive situation or not, they still felt love. And they felt that was the way the world worked. We're the ones that know better. So now that Jacob is 11, it's been years since we've heard any of that being brought up, which we're grateful for. I think we Jacob and I took considerable effort. Did I say Jacob and I? Nick and I. Nick and I took a lot of steps to try to not hide, but minimize that because we want the memories and the experiences to all be positive. We want all of that other stuff to be washed out. Oh, it'll probably come up in therapy years from later, but it's not here now. So I think I appreciate the fact that you guys still share those experiences and memories and engage with them on that level because I think that will continue to foster, hey, I can go to Trevor, I can go to Michael and share that and they'll engage with me as opposed to sweeping it under the rug.
But it's not easy. Let me say that.
Well, I wouldn't say it would be easy, but what
because they do have because it is, especially Jackson. His memory he's got a lot more vivid memories, and they're all great memories. And I'm like, wow, you have no idea.
Remember all the good things.
Yeah. The police were called out many times to visits to intervene, and his memory is, they were trying to hurt my mom. So
do you still have like all the paperwork? Did they give you so? I have documentation from all sorts of stuff since getting Jacob that were handed to me when we first got him, and then subsequently, like some of the court visits and stuff like that. Some paperworks were made available and testimonies and stuff like that. I keep all that because one day when he's 18 or whatnot, he's going to go, tell me about it. And I'm going to trot out the accordion file.
Yeah, man, we should have. It was all in email, and I probably still could pull that stuff up. I mean, I've got emails from, his bio mom that are pretty wild and things that that she said. But I also have the mugshots, the 12 mugshots over the past 3 years.
So let me say this. I think the files that I have are different than the files you have. I don't have that because it wasn't, our experience wasn't so visceral, right? So I don't even know what to say about that. Like, I don't know if I would share that or not.
She gets arrested every 6 months.
Yeah.
Like clockwork. And it's sad though, because you see the mugshots and it's the decline of the past few years is scary. And so that's terrifying to me because, especially with Jackson, his mom's in such a bad place that it terrifies me for him, if he does want to connect at any point, because it's not going to be good.
What do you think is a good age?
30.
Okay. I mean,
to have the emotional capacity to handle what would be thrown at him, that's not something that anybody's capable of at 20, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality, and we know that. So
what are some of the fascinating things you've learned about yourself being a dad? Because I'm sure there is a marker in the sand that says this is how I feel or I saw myself before having kids, and then this is where I am today.
Yeah, it's more natural than I thought it would be. Being a parent is not easy, but it's not as challenging as I thought it would be. Not to say it's easy by any means.
Well, I mean, you have some pretty cool kids, so
yeah, they're not. So in fairness, we do, and we joke often. We go out to eat a lot with our kids, and they don't take iPads with them. They're not on phones. They're sitting at the table with us and engaging. And people will constantly come up to us and give us compliments. I mean, often about how well behaved our kids are. Mm-hmm. And me and Michael will joke, we're like, man, we were just threatening them within an inch of their life like 5 minutes ago. So, it makes you look back and realize, all right, they are good kids, and we are doing something right.
That's intentional parenting, right? Why'd you guys decide to do that with electronics?
Because our kids, and every kid, I would say, it's such an easy way to push them off and not have to deal with kids. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say that because there are times when it's a weekend and we say, okay, go play the PS5. And we will let them do it for 4 hours because it gives us time to just mentally regroup. Mm-hmm. And as a parent, it is the easy way out. Mm-hmm. It is the easiest thing to do is to give them their iPad, give them video games, and that will occupy them. But when we are at dinner, when we are together, we want that to be more intentional time. And so, especially at a restaurant, I don't want their face buried in an iPad. We take them out to, we're not typically going to a fast food restaurant. If we're going out to a decent sit down restaurant, and it's an experience for us. It's something that we enjoy. We want them to enjoy it. And, so much during the week and different times is just busy with school and homework and just running around. So when we have that time, we want them to be engaged and be able to, especially when they get older, to have conversations with people and be in those spaces and, be good with it and I hate to say know how to act, but in a way.
Okay. What else would you say is part of the cool nature of your fatherhoodness, which is a word I just created, by the way. Thank you.
One thing is we want them to experience what we experience. Since they were a kid, since they were, a year and a half old, they go everywhere with us. Mm-hmm. Vacations for the most part, like I said, going out to eat, going to stores, whatever we're doing, they're kind of along that journey with us. Mm-hmm. So we want them to have experiences. They've been out of the country. So we want them to have experiences not only with us, but with different people, different cultures. so they know how the world works and they're not just so confined to just this little bubble that they live in. We want them to know there's more out there. And, on the flip side of that, we want them to know how lucky they are, like how good their life is. And, really understand that. And it's not that we want to pat ourselves on the back, but we do want them to have an appreciation for life in general.
Yeah, I think any self-respecting therapist will tell you need to pat yourself on the back sometimes.
Sometimes we do.
So that's okay.
Michael does more than me. He's a better parent than me.
And it's funny that you say that, because I think we all go through moments where we're like, we're missing the mark as a parent. I have those moments as well, but I think it is healthy to have those moments, because the moment that we think we're doing better and there's nothing that needs to be revised is the moment we failed.
And kids are resilient. They bounce back really quick. And I think too, sometimes when we go, man, we were way too hard on them, they bounce back before we have.
Yeah, because they know it's not a usual thing. We feel it, and it's remorse, right? We need to change that.
I'm like, man, I was an asshole.
Exactly. Well, that's not me. I was in my feelings. And then, one thing that Nick and I do as well, and he does it better than I do, we take the opportunity to say, we fell here. Ooh. We overreacted here.
Yeah.
We do that here's
too.
why. And we apologize as well. Yep. And we say, this is why that happened. I don't know that I have seen many people do that before we had kids.
It's important. I mean, it is okay to apologize to your kids and tell them that you did something wrong.
Well, I mean, we're human, and we're asking them
to do it,
right?
But a lot of parents will not do that.
No.
And we don't want them to think that. We don't want them to think that, we want them to know if we made a mistake, hey, we made a mistake. Because just like we are coming to them saying that we apologize and we did this, we want them to do the same thing.
Exactly.
We want them to have the self-awareness and the ability to say, shouldn't have done that. And they do, and they're getting there.
Emotional intelligence is the new buzzword, right?
Yeah. Jack's got in trouble at school on Friday, and I was traveling for work. I came home later Friday night. When I walked in the door, just said, walked in, asked him how their day was, and Jack goes, "I'm so sorry." First words out of his mouth, "I'm so sorry."
Before you get the email.
Well, yeah, and he knew, I already knew, because they called me, and he was in the office when they called me. So, but yeah, he's like, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, "It's okay. It's been dealt with. It's fine."
So last question I wanted to ask you, there is always an extra layer of caution, right? As an LGBTQ dad, that we apply to almost everything we do, especially when it's done externally. Do you still feel the weight of that blanket in most of the things that you do outside of the house with your kids?
Me, no, I don't. At least not that I'm very aware of. Mm-hmm. Michael does more than me.
Why do you think he feels it and you don't? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing, but
no, he's always, I think, I don't want to say he cares more, but I'm less concerned about what people think in the outside than he is. And also, being a person of color, I think he's got some of that in him already to be more concerned about society and what they're thinking. But he's constantly scanning the room, seeing who's looking at us, seeing, always paying attention to that, where I'm not as much. Because to me, I'm like, this is my family, this is our life, we're doing our thing, and if you have a problem with it, that's not my problem, that's your problem.
Right.
So, but we are intentional about things we do and where we go more, I would say. So that's one thing I guess I am intentional about. Just want to make sure the spaces we're in are going to be, overall would be more welcoming type experiences for us and our kids.
No, I think that's good. Michael and I spoke about that just ever so briefly, and I think it does have a lot of roots in being a person of color, if you will. Just always aware of where you are and the diversity that may or may not exist, being part of that. Yeah.
And I think too, society is messed up as this is, if someone sees me with Jackson Genesis, overall, they're probably if they're making up a story in their head, are going to make it up different than they are with him with Jax.
Yeah. Well, I joke all the time. I travel with my white privilege as well. that's yeah. And Nick, Nick is part of the joke as well, and he knows that is the case as well. That when we are all together, because of the fact that he is there, things I think tend to unfold differently than they would otherwise.
Yeah, and I think if someone sees me out with Genesis, they're probably like, oh, they'll assume that I adopted or saved this kid. Mm-hmm. And if someone sees Michael out with just Jackson, they might have a very different opinion. What is he doing with this kid? Yeah, what is he doing with him?
Did you just pick him up from?
And so, yeah,
it's unfortunate, but that is a reality that I think is very unique to Black people in this country, and it's pervasive. And I think, given today's climate, it's ever more present than it should be. We'll leave that there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll leave that there. Well, hey, listen, we are towards the end of this, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing a wealth of information about how you engage with your kids, how you have seen yourself change and adopt and morph and become the father that you are today. And certainly on the husband side for you and Michael as well. So I appreciate you spending some time with us today on this podcast.
Of course. Can I say one more thing?
You may not.
Okay, good.
No, go right ahead.
So for anyone who is concerned if they would be a good parent, if they, not, someone who doesn't have the experiences, one day I had an epiphany and this is a story for another day, but we've fostered infants and things of that nature. And one day I said, every adult you see is someone that survived their childhood in one way or the other. They lived through it. So, it's a challenge being a parent, but it's, pretty much anyone can do it. I mean, if you're interested in it, you want to take the journey, that's the most important step.
And no parent starts as an expert.
Correct. Exactly.
Everyone starts not knowing what
but you figure it out, and you grow up and people live through it.
All right. Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks,
we'll
Jamil.
see you guys on the next one.
You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way